We came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Isekai, he don't live in reality. Shake back off, become a fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing us. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mookie here, and today is a special day, given that today is the day that Naruto first aired and came to that of the West, and was on Toonami. Honestly, Naruto is a huge part of my life, to be honest. Sure, it was basically the 4/5 anime that impacted my life growing up as a kid, to be honest. First anime has to go to that of Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, and etc., etc. But even so, Naruto was a huge part of my life because I could relate to Naruto a lot growing up as a kid. And not just me, a lot of kids could possibly relate to Naruto in other ways outside of losing your parents or having a demon fox inside you. What related me to Naruto was feeling isolated around people, after all, growing up as a kid, to be honest. That is especially not just around that of kids my own age, but also around adults too. So yeah. And this is a special what if. This is what if Izuku had Chakra. Yep, you heard me right. This is basically what if Izuku had that of a chakra network in his body. But it's not going to be a full-on series. In fact, this is going to be my first of many one-shot what-ifs. What-ifs that I'm planning on just skimming over through each season before stopping at a single point, allowing you guys to basically theorize on how the series would have ended with this aspect change after all. Most of them would be videos, while some would be shorts. Originally, I was going to explain this during an update for the channel that was supposed to come out this month, but it may come out later on this month, actually, the update, I mean. So keep an eye out for that, if YouTube actually bothers notifying you guys. But with enough said, let's get into this, shall we, guys? Starting off with that of Izuku Midoriya. Growing up, he's still basically quirkless, of course. I mean, it's only natural. Beaten, bullied, looked down upon by everybody around him, especially his former childhood friend, now turned tormentor, Katsuki Bakugo, and was even told to give up on his dream of being a hero due to him being quirkless. That's all still the same. However, there's only one little difference here. As the years go on, Izuku begins to develop that of a chakra network. Began basically developing weird, supernatural feats happening to him, like being able to increase his running speed, his durability is a lot more better. He feels things basically flowing through his body without knowing why. And this is because he's slowly developing his chakra as time goes on. It's only until one day, after his first few months at Aldera Junior High, even though he seems more, developed and a lot more stronger than that of normal kids, he's still looked down upon due to his lack of quirk. But when he leaves that of Aldera, he finds that of a mysterious book that basically allows him to understand that of chakra. And where he found this book was basically a bargain bin area in around that of a bookstore that he normally goes to get extra notebooks after all when he does his quirk analysis after all. Through this book, he was able to understand that of the chakra network and the flow of chakra through his body, and through that of hand signs as well. Not only that, even able to find out that there are several pages on that of jutsus, and also how to develop that of nature chakra energy and figure out what is studying the book, the hand signs, and also the chakra nature for Izuku. He began to find out that he specializes in both that of wind nature chakra and lightning nature chakra, alongside that of also fire nature chakra as well, while also studying that of the book, while developing that of the chakra natures of each and every style, the beginner jutsus when developing that of chakra natures, for example. First up with that of the fireball jutsu for his fire chakra, that of the, wind bullet jutsu from that of wind style chakra, and also that of the lightning scream jutsu, lightning nature chakra, of course. Through this, Izuku also had to work out his body and train as well. Even though Izuku was not as motivated or as determined to basically work out or develop as well, but when he started reading the book, he took it more seriously. Even started developing that of his own style of jutsus growing up. But he couldn't use these jutsus due to his body not being, properly trained. Because of this, his physical training, alongside that, outside of that, of his mental training, is a bit, halted, even so. But even with all that standing in his way, his dream of being a hero is still not impeded. Even after that of wanting to enroll in that of UA, being laughed at by that of his classmates, being looked down upon by that of Bakugo, it still hasn't deterred him to wanting to become a hero. Even with that of the whole, unalive baiting from that of Bakugo, it still doesn't deter that of Izuku. So he still keeps moving forward. Heck, because of all of the teasing and taunting and basically being made fun of, he tries even harder, even with that of the Sledge Villain incident, where normally All Might would had to be the one to help him. He was able to at least get out of it quickly enough before the Sledge Villain was able to take over his body. Even though his body isn't on the level of what it would be in canon, it's still decent enough for that of a typical 14-year-old after all, and was able to dodge the first attack from the Sledge Villain, which soon led to him using that of his fireball jutsu, burning that of the Sledge Villain. However, surprisingly, the fireball jutsu was too much, which soon led to that of the Sledge Villain dying actually. As this is the first time using that of an actual jutsu to basically defend himself from that of an actual human being, which caused Izuku to go through that of a mental breakdown and panic. Even when All Might showed up and saw what happened, All Might tried to reassure him that what he did, even though it was basically murder, it was still self-defense. He defended himself from that of a villain, which shows that he was in the right, even though part of Izuku doesn't feel like he was in the right at all. But even so, All Might basically told him that he needs to work at it, his quirk, train himself if he wants to be able to control it. So something like this doesn't happen, even though it's not technically a quirk. Izuku takes All Might's words with that of encouragement, before then flying off to the police station to file that of the report. Which soon led to that of Izuku heading back home and deciding to work on that of a workout plan on how to develop his body and also find a way to weaken down that of his jutsus so they don't cause any lethal damage like he did with that of the Sledge Villain. Through that of the 10 months of training, he developed that of his body routine by working out as much as he can and studying that of certain bodybuilder workout routines. Nothing too masculine or too over the top, but just something that would basically allow him to handle his chakra flow a lot more better. Through these months, he even developed that of his own original jutsus and even develop that of jutsus that our residential knucklehead ninja we all know he's iconic for after all. That being the Shadow Clone Jutsu. And not just that, also that of the, transformation jutsu, and even that of Shuriken Copy Jutsu. The Shadow Shuriken Jutsu, it's rather called. Even developed that of certain genjutsus as well to put that of certain people in illusions, which was easier said than done, given that Izuku did not know on how to put people in genjutsus, and the only person that he tried it on at first was his mother, and he did not like it, but decided to put that of his genjutsu training on hold for the time being, unless truly necessary. As for that of taijutsu, on the other hand, that's another story. He has no true martial arts experience. Izuku barely has any close quarters combat at all. Most of the time when he was basically in fights, when he was starting to develop that of his chakra network, were mainly just out of that of one-hit punches due to his chakra enhancing that of his fist and his muscle density after all. And he was a little kid back then, so trying to imagine on how much power that Izuku would have behind his punches and kicks when he properly learned that of taijutsu after all. So Izuku decided to at least learn that of self-taught martial arts when it comes to taijutsu, which was decent enough for the time being until that of the entrance exam. Entrance exam would basically go a little bit differently. Everything would still be the same. Basically destroy robots, go to that of a battle area, keep away from that of the zero-pointer, secretly have rescue points. Same old, same old. However, the only difference is that Izuku would literally go through this easily and a lot more better. For example, using shadow clones to basically scatter around to take out that of more and more robots after all, while also probably helping out those who are struggling. Add that with that of his new releases, being that fire release, wind release, and lightning release. And he has nothing to fully worry about, to be honest. If anything, he's got this in the bag. However, the only difference is I don't see him basically taking out that of the zero-pointer, unlike that in canon and several of my other what-ifs. And it's mainly because he doesn't have the full destructive capabilities of the more destructive jutsus under his belt. Or rather, he didn't develop them, which makes sense for Izuku, to be honest. He prefers to use a scalpel over that of a giant-ass hammer. Even though he admires All Might, he's not the kind of person to basically just want to just beat down everybody with a single blow or punch. Even if he admires it, that's not his style. To Izuku, defeating somebody quickly and efficiently is basically his style. So when Uraraka is either pinned down by that of the zero-pointer or whoever I kind of shipped Izuku with, which, as side note, it's Tsuyu after all, he would basically use his shadow clones and spent a bit of his chakra as well, already using that of several elemental jutsus after all. So to be honest, it kind of makes sense that he would most likely feel like passing out during the exam, right after saving them, to be honest. After 2 weeks or so, get his entrance letter, get it. I don't see him basically getting at least at passing Bakugo like at first place, but I do see him at least getting that of second to third place at least, showing on how much he's basically improved, which soon leads to that of the whole confrontation after school with Bakugo, threatening Izuku, calling him a cheater, bribe the staff, blah, 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 all that other shit, with them still going to UA, still meeting that of Aizawa, still having the quirk apprehension test, which is a lot more better than before, thanks to that of his enhanced strength and speed and durability due to his chakra flow. However, the test exam would be doing better when that of one of his experimental jutsus, basically channeling his chakra through a layer of his skin, while also channeling at least one of his chakra natures as well. However, like I said, it's experimental, so he doesn't want to at least use it just yet without any negative repercussions. Even with that setback, they were still able to get he's still able to get higher up in that of the placement. And Izuku would at least be that of 5th place, actually. It's the best I can see him going, to be honest. As for the person being expelled from that of the class, most definitely Mineta. But we already know that Mineta's most definitely going to be coming back to that of UA, back into class the day after, given that he expelled him the first day, but then bring him back into that of the class the next day. Unfortunately, with that expulsion on his mark, it's still a black mark after all. And yeah, and if you're in Japan, I like to bring up this one fact that I think a lot of people in the fandom kind of forget about being when you're expelled and out of Japan, that you get a freaking black mark, and even if you go to that of a prestigious school or you get re-enrolled into the school that expelled you, that black mark is still basically a part of you, especially when you get job applications. So honestly, I think Aizawa kind of screwed over half of his students when they basically graduate outside to UA to be those he expelled. Either way, but that's beside the point. They don't what matter. But even so, Mineta is somewhat screwed. Battle trials are still the same as ever, still same teams and everything, with All Might still being that of the teacher too. However, he already gave that of One for All to that of, Mirio, where he's the teacher of both Class 1A and that of Class 2 and Class 3B as well. As the battle trial basically goes the same as always, with Bakugo going straight for Izuku to try and put him in his place like always. However, it doesn't stay the same, mainly because Izuku would use one shadow clone to work with that of Ochako after all, while basically fighting against Bakugo to keep him busy. As for that of Ochako and Ida, they would still be founded by Ida. However, with that of Izuku's jutsus, especially that of his lightning style and wind style jutsus, they were possibly able to immobilize and basically pin down Ida better than they would have in canon. Which Bakugo would still try to use one of his gauntlets. However, without the extra aid and help from that of, one of his clones, Ochako would grab the bomb sooner before he uses to tries to blow up that of Izuku. And with that fast completion time, it basically ruffles Bakugo's ego even more. Not to mention, given the fact that Izuku is using Chakra, and to him, he's using a quirk, just makes it even more annoying for that of Bakugo after all. Everybody going through their battle trials, seeing their quirks and abilities and everything else as well, and basically hits Bakugo even more, which proves that that he was always a big fish in a small pond, all the way back in elementary school to junior high. But it makes him even more determined to beat that of Izuku and everybody else in Class 1A. That he no longer can just coast on his quirk alone. Speaking of egotistical people as well, the League of Villains would still do their little scheme by using that of the media to sneak into that of UA, cause a panic in that of the lunchroom, which instead, however, Ida would have basically calm everybody down. However, Izuku would be the one to give Ida the information due to him learning that of the wall walking technique alongside that of the water walking too. Giving Ida this information and even tossing him onto that of the small ledge in front of the exit sign and giving everybody the information in speech. Just like in canon, they would vote for that of Izuku and Momo. However, Izuku would have possibly give that of the, president spot to Ida, just like in canon. However, Ida would would decline it. Given that, Midoriya was the one who figured out the situation and the problem sooner. As they would go back and forth with this, within somebody in the class, most likely that of Tsuyu, would basically recommend them to have that of more than two vice presidents, with Ida and Momo being that of vice presidents and Izuku staying that of president, with Aizawa not even caring that much and basically just accepting it. With Momo grumbling a little bit, thinking that, if Izuku was going to step down, she would have been the candidate to be that of president after all, but accepting it either way. Next up would be the USJ incident, of course. As everybody begins talking about their quirks and how popular they would be, Tsuyu brought up the fact that Izuku looks like he has that of multiple quirks. With Izuku blushing, given that, again, he barely interacts with barely any women outside of his mother, of course. But then he tells them that he doesn't really have a quirk, and it's something different, to be honest. Within, everybody is kind of confused about this. Even that of Aizawa, who was pretending to fall asleep, actually was more curious about this. Even Bakugo and that of Shoto too. But before that, if Izuku could explain, they soon arrive at that of the USJ, meet 13, give them the spiel about that of their quirks being dangerous, and that their duties is that of heroes to save people, and where they'll be training in that of the USJ. However, that's when that of Kurogiri, alongside that of Shigaraki and the Nomu, and that of the cannon fodder villains of the League of Villains show up, and plan on attacking, and was planning on trying to kill All Might. As same old, everything basically goes the same. Aizawa goes down to take care of the villains to give that of 13 and the students time to escape. Kurogiri basically blocks their way. Bakugo and Kirishima tries to attack Kurogiri to knock them out of the way, but it has no avail given that they have no idea where his actual body is. He basically warps everybody to other zones so the villains can kill them. Izuku lands in that of the shipwreck zone alongside Tsuyu and Mineta, like that in Canon 2. However, in this, it'd be a lot more different. Due to him not having one for all, it would be a lot more... You would think it'd be harder for them to basically leave. However, not so much. Due to him having that of lightning release, it's basically the perfect zone to knock out each and every one of the villains without breaking a sweat. And, given that he can walk on water, like I said before, he can basically just step on that of the water, use one of his lightning jutsus, which he uses that of his lightning touch jutsu, and basically electrifies the entirety of the water, but keeping himself safe using that of his chakra to redirect the lightning back to the water on his feet, knocking out each and every one of the villains and causing them to escape along with Tsuyu and Mineta on tow, with him basically piggybacking Tsuyu, causing him to blush like crazy because, again, even though he electrified all the villains and everything, electrified water is still pretty dangerous before letting the electricity fade out. Unfortunately, it also led to that of Tsuyu basically having to carry Mineta on her back as well, which is a bad day for Sue. Let's be honest on that. However, arriving back at that of the center of the USJ, they soon noticed that of Aizawa's arm already pretty bandaged up, him basically getting beaten by that of the Nomu, having his head slammed down to the ground, with even then finding out that Kurogiri ended up letting Ida slip. Shigaraki getting annoyed at the fact that the heroes are going to show up, mainly that of the UA staff. However, wasn't going to leave without causing at least some psychological damage, as he was about to basically decay that of Tsuyu's fate decay Tsuyu. However, Izuku stepped in the nick of time, basically blitzing through that of hand signs and send that of a fireball jutsu to that of Shigaraki. As Shigaraki stepped back, however, a bit of his black clothing was singed though, which soon led to that of the Nomu protecting that of Shigaraki. And given that he has shock absorb, and you would think that shock absorption would also absorb that of fire, but not really. Unfortunately, the super regeneration does kick in though. Shigaraki getting annoyed at Izuku basically stepping in front of him, before then weaving through hand signs once again, before then using one of his wind jutsus, being that of his wind style, wind sword barrage, sending on that of a volley of waves and waves of blades towards that of Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu. Kurogiri would use his time to warp that of Shigaraki away to keep away from the blades. However, the blades are so sharp that they cut right through that of the Nomu's body, which kind of freaks out that of Tsuyu and Mineta, of course. Even that of Aizawa, who was trying his best to stay awake to get his students out of there, couldn't help but be shocked too. Even those on that of the top of the route, on the top of the entranceway, keeping that of 13 alive as well, were shocked. However, once again, the super regeneration kicks in, which Nomu's body basically grows back. With Izuku realizing this, thinking that he needs to tax that regeneration fast enough. However, before Izuku could put his plan into use, that's when All Might finally shows up. However, he's not alone, given that Mirio would show up too, given that he's his protege after all and his successor, and was talking to him during that of a meeting alongside that of Nezu, which Ida would soon show up too. Using this time, everything would somewhat stay the same but different. All Might would face against that of the Nomu like always, along with Mirio instead would probably go to that of other zones to find out of the students and help them out and get them out of the dangerous situations. However, we already know that a few of them wouldn't have much of a problem. However, a certain student would basically pretend that he was in trouble though. But even so, he would play it off like nothing ever happened and he's thankful for Mirio coming in, which would soon basically lead to that of All Might giving off that of his plus ultra punch, sending the Nomu flying, just like always, which then soon leaving him basically exhausted and spent of his time limit again, showing all the students at all on what it means to be the number one pro. Even Izuku is at all seeing that of his idol in action once again, with Shigaraki planning on basically attacking All Might once again. However, that's when Snipe shows up alongside that of the rest of the other, faculty of UA as well. Even though Mirio already helped out many of the students get out of the zones that they are, there's still some villains remaining, to be honest. Which soon the police shows up, Shigaraki and Kurogiri escape, and everybody is basically all safe. With the same as always, the end of Season 1 and the beginning of Season 2. With a few days off, Izuku uses this time to develop that of new jutsus. Even though he isn't a big flashy type as he wants to be, and that his style is more on taking down singular foes the quickest way possible. Nothing wrong with that of a area and effect kind of jutsu that can basically take out multiple foes. However, doing so could also drain away that of his chakra a lot faster than that of his jutsus mainly used for one person after all. So he decided to prioritize that of the chakra nature that does better with that of area effects type of attacks, and then focus on that of making that of new jutsus with that of the ones that doesn't have that much of a better effect with the area effect. The best one he thought of was his wind style for the area effect jutsu after all. Fire style would also work, but it's too destructive. Lightning style would also work too, but it's also too unpredictable that it can also hurt that of allies as well. Wind style, Izuku has the best control over and can basically keep it in check as well to make sure that allies don't get sucked into it, which he decides to call this his Vortex Jutsu. However, he didn't keep himself idle. He also developed that of a new jutsu for that of his lightning style, calling it the Lightning Fang Jutsu. It takes the shape of a lightning wolf after all. Pretty familiar of a certain jutsu that a famous spiky white-haired mask-wearing shinobi that we all know and love. However, for fire style, he decided to do a little something different. Realizing that most fire style jutsus always come from that of the mouth, why not develop a fire style jutsu that comes from his palm of his hands? Which, easier said than done, which he kind of found out why fire style jutsus always come from that of the mouth due to the best output for that of breathing control after all. When he tried using that of a fire style jutsu that extends from that of his hands on outward, it was a lot harder than expected. Burned his hands a few times, to be honest, but he was able to get it at least somewhat down, calling it the fire style Inferno Wave. However, there was another thing that he wanted to test out, but it's still early too soon, and that was mixing his chakra natures. But it was already time to go back to UA, which everything seems like it's all back to normal as usual. However, that's when Aizawa comes back all bandaged up and brings up that the UA Sports Festival is coming up a lot more earlier than normally for them after all. It's mainly a way to show that UA isn't too shaken, and it's also a way to put doubts to those who feel like they got lucky being saved by that of All Might and the faculty, to show them what they're truly capable of. If everybody getting hyped as well, even that of Ochako too, just like in canon, however, it still also leads to that in canon where everybody is gunning for that of UA because of their 5 seconds of fame by surviving a villain attack, which is still damn ridiculous after all, being jealous of people who nearly died. But then again, this is Hero Society, of course. Fame is fame in their eyes. Even Bakugo antagonizing everybody just like he wouldn't canon. Even that of aiming for taking down Izuku. With Izuku not even phased, but is prepared for what's to come high or hell water. Which for the next 2 weeks of training, Izuku decided to develop that of the jutsu that he was always preparing for, that being his chakra armor cloak after all. Basically channeling chakra through that of his skin and protecting himself from that of dangerous attacks after all. He has to focus and basically clear his mind, but he wants to find a way to do it second nature without it causing too much of a strain on his chakra or on his mind. After that of a few days or so, he was able to get it down. Now the hardest part was to basically coat it with that of chakra nature after all. Coating it with either fire, wind, or lightning, and easier said than done. It just made it even harder to concentrate better, to be fair. However, if he needed that of a defensive mechanism, like to go against that of fire and that of lightning, it was perfect, to be honest. Wind, somewhat useful too. Not too useful, but still. But even so, he now has an extra layer of defense outside of just his enhanced body now. Which now it's time for that of the UA Sports Festival, as everybody is hyped for this. Added that with the extra security for that of anybody to go through, to have permission to come through. Not only that, add that with that of the pro heroes basically, patrolling that of the grounds outside of just the UA faculty. And this is basically the most safe and most secured place and that of the entirety of the city. And as everybody in Class 1A is preparing, with Izuku, Ida, and Momo basically coming in to warn them and prepare them for when they go into that of the arena, this is also the time where that of Shoto basically declares war on Izuku. Instead of like that of the usual, if Izuku has that of One for All and All Might being his mentor and everything like that, instead he wants to defeat him because of his fire style, and that he refuses to lose to another fire user. Izuku being cut off by this and wondering why, given that he also has that of a fire-based quirk as well, besides just ice, with once again Kirishima trying to stop them, but Shoto giving them the same speech as always, that they're not here to make friends, that they're here to basically aim for the top. However, Izuku basically gives out his opinion saying, "I'm not aiming for the top. I never was and never will be. I'm only aiming to just be a hero to protect those in need. Simple as that. If I wanted to be the best, then I'll aim for it. But right now, I don't care. And if you're coming at me at full force, Todoroki, then I'll do the same. Just hope that you don't hold back using that of your fire, though." After giving that of his own, comeback, it even kind of irked that of Shoto as well. However, Bakugo was kind of annoyed at the fact that Shoto didn't declare war on him after all. Within brought to that of the arena, being called out by that of President Mike, and he calls out all the other classes of that of the first year as well. With Bakugo still having that of first place, would give that of the student pledge after all, being the class representative, getting first place in the entrance exam. And just like he would in canon, he basically say that he's going to win. Simple as that. With everybody basically booing at him, even those of the other classes booing at him, even that of Ida basically telling him why would he do that, now that every class is going to be gunning for them. Within, Bakugo still gives out the same nonchalant words as before, saying that he's definitely going to win no matter what, and you're all basically stepping stones for my victory. As everybody else in Class 1A was also kind of irked by this, by Bakugo, as they also wanted to give it their all too, and to prove him wrong. However, Izuku, on the other hand, was not surprised at all, as to him, the old Bakugo would have basically smiled and basically bragged to high heaven about being the best. He made it simple and to the short and didn't brag, which shows to Izuku that Bakugo is serious, dead on serious. Which as the person that will be overlooking that of the first year portion of the UA Sports Festival, the umpire being Midnight, of course. And just like in canon, everybody blushing, getting embarrassed, and actually enjoying that of her outfit, though. And she explains that the first event will be that of an obstacle course race. And so basically be leaving the arena, going around and out of a circle while facing inside of several obstacles and then coming back. The first person that comes back into the arena wins. With that, everybody is somewhat excited, while some are a little bit nervous, given that many of their quirks aren't really mobile, to be honest. For Izuku, he has nothing to worry about as he's been working on nothing but his mobility. As then, President Mike basically tells them, get ready, get set, and go. With then, everybody just heads on out to that of the outside of the arena, getting the race already going on ahead. With President Mike in that of, surprisingly, still recovering Aizawa, basically giving out that of commentary for the event. With same old banter, and even that of Aizawa bringing up the fact that the first true unofficial obstacle is that of the exit, after all, which basically many people from that of each classes are basically struggling to get out of. However, it still freezes over because of Shoto, of course, basically freezing everybody to that of the ground. However, those from Class 1A, like that of Bakugo, Momo, Ojiro, and Aoyama, got through alongside that of Mineta too. Even that of Izuku, who basically walked on that of the wall, on top of the wall, and basically jumped down, and using that of his chakra to keep himself from slipping on that of Todoroki's ice to keep on going, which kind of shows that his chakra control is basically improving bit by bit, as he's not really worrying about trying to do flashy and more powerful jutsus, but focusing more on controlling his chakra better, which now leads to that of the next obstacle, being that of Robo Inferno basically facing against that of a small army of robots from the entrance exam and that of 3 0-point robots. However, they were nothing to that of the recommendation students, such as that of Shoto and Momo, of course, and those who basically just avoided the robots all the way, being that of Bakugo, Tokoyami, and Sero, of course. For Izuku, he knows that some people are going to struggle with that of the robots, so, wanting to help them out, he basically destroyed at least several of them and even crippled that of a 0-pointer. Originally, he was kind of afraid of them. However, now that he has a better understanding of his chakra and more versatile jutsu as well, he uses that of his Windblade Jutsu and cut off that of the treads of one of the robots, but made sure to give everybody a heads up to avoid them and make sure to get through as much as you can. Next up was that of the fall, being that of the tightrope obstacle, which for Shoto basically grinding on that of the ice on the ropes using his ice, and that of Bakugo basically flying through the obstacle, of course, with his explosions. Even that of Suyu basically climbing on that of the ropes to get through, and the first sign of that of Hatsune using that of her support gear to get the upper hand as well. Izuku doesn't even struggle with this one either. I mean, literally running on that of ropes and having better chakra control being on it because of it. Not even breaking a sweat, which kind of impresses quite a bit of people actually. Because of this, he gets the attention of a lot of people wondering on what Izuku's quirk is. However, this basically brings to the question, all the faculty even know this, that on his quirk registry, he's still considered quirkless. Hell, even All Might, who remembers Izuku when he saved him about that of a year ago, and even the battle trial, as he basically wanted to know on how this is possible, thinking that Izuku has multiple quirks after all, and thinking that he may have a connection to All for One, but that's not the case at all. But that's not what's important right now. What's important is that of the next obstacle, that being the minefield. As many people are basically trying their ways to get through it, Shoto basically taking that of the short and subtle approach until that of Bakugo tries to, blitz through him and basically try to knock him back with his explosions, which soon leads to Shoto to just screw it and basically glide his ice on that of the, minefield, even if it does create that of a bridge and an opening for other students to get through as well. As for Izuku, he basically does the more smart approach to basically blitz through. and that was electrifying all of the mines after all, using one of his lightning style jutsu. Now, normally, electrifying that of the mines that's already been planted underground would seem impossible, right? Well, that's for that of normal electricity. For that of Chakra channeled electricity, on the other hand, it can pretty much bypass all of that. Let's also add the fact that each of the mines that are in the ground are all connected to one another, even if they are somewhat separated to enough where people can basically get by. But even so, Izuku basically destroys them all, allowing enough of the bombs to be destroyed for him to get through, even around that of the mines that where Bakugo and Shoto are as well, causing them to be disoriented from being hit by that of the middle explosions. Even Bakugo may be able to withstand his own explosions, but when it comes to explosions that aren't from him, not so much. Which soon leads to that of Izuku blitzing through the both of them, heading forward. As again, he doesn't really care about winning, but he does want to show what he's capable of. Show the hard work that somebody like him, who is still quirkless and who has learned how to manipulate chakra, is better. And he's able to achieve his dream of being a hero, which soon Bakugo and Shoto tried to catch up as soon as they can, but it was already too late. Izuku won that of the first event of the sports festival, being the obstacle course race. And now it's time for that of the next, event of the sports festival, being the Cavalry battle, of course. And just like it was in canon, the stipulation for those in first place to second place, from each place basically having that of a certain number of points. However, Izuku's points is 10 million, which now, if anybody that has that of the 10 million points, they're reassured for that of the next event for the sports festival, which soon basically Izuku looks at everybody like they have their eyes on him, like that a demon's basically about to pounce on him. And it kind of basically stirs up his old emotions back then when he was a kid, after all, being surrounded by people who he used to see as his friends looking down on him due to his quirkless nature. And basically being put on the spot kind of makes him even more nervous to gather those who would be on his team. Surprisingly, the people that joined his team being that of Ochako and Mei. However, the third person, on the other hand, he thought that Ida would join, but instead he didn't join. He still joins out of Shoto's team. No, the person that ended up joining that of Izuku's team wasn't Tokiyami either. It was Tsuyu, wanting to help out that of Izuku after all, seeing on how much he was struggling to get that of a team, and how much he worked hard to get this far as well. Plus, she really wants to see on how far he can come after all. With Mei still joining because she wants the person with that of the most points will have the eyes on them after all, especially given Izuku using that of his chakra, eyes would be on him more often than before too. Hell, originally, he actually did have a lot more people come for him, but not as much though, just at least that a few people here and there from that of Class 1A, but everybody else was still going for that of Shoto and Bakugo. Even those from Class 1B were still basically together and doing their own clique, especially following Monoma's plan. But now, with that of the second event of the obstacle of the sports festival underway, with Izuku as the rider, Ochako and Mei being the back, and Tsuyu being the front, they now have that of a perfect team, as Izuku's main strategy is to basically keep away from other people as well, just like he would have in canon. However, he wouldn't be afraid to basically grab that of extra points if they can. So if Tsuyu has the opportunity and chance to get people's headbands, don't be afraid to do so. But their number one priority is to basically keep the 10 million headband. And everything kind of goes like it would have and out of the first Cavalry battle, keeping their distance, everybody coming after them, Bakugo being the most aggressive, Shoto basically stealing headbands on the side before going after Izuku. Monoma in Class 1B basically still trying to get headbands too by stealing from that of Class 1A. But it backfires horribly, what it soon leads to that of the last remaining people being that of Izuku and Shoto going toe-to-toe, with Ida still using his reciprocal burst to try and gain that of the headband, which Shoto ended up grabbing. However, they still had at least enough points to gain that of more headbands. But even so, they still needed to get the 10 million points just in case. But even so, it still wasn't enough. They were able to gain that of more headbands, but they weren't able to get that of the 10 million headbands. But with that of the extra headbands that they gathered throughout the second event of the Cavalry battle, instead of being that of, well, lucky to get that of 4th place, they ended up being in that of 3rd place, and the 4th place team being that of Shinso's team just as well. So, in a way, they were able to make it, but instead of the skin of their teeth, but by that of sheer luck and determination. Which now it's time for that of to prepare for that of the 3rd event of the sports festival. However, this would all soon lead to that of Shoto still doing the same thing as before, with asking for Izuku and about him as well, especially about that of his quirk, or rather, him saying that he doesn't have a quirk, but even asking if he was a byproduct of a quirk marriage instead of asking if he was the love child of All Might after all, which again really catches him off guard as hell. But honestly, he isn't really familiar with that of quirk marriages, and even tells him that he really doesn't have a quirk, with Shoto not even believing either one, but decides to leave it be for now, and telling him that he was the byproduct of a quirk marriage between his father, the number 2 hero Endeavor, and his mother, who had that of a powerful ice quirk, Rei Todoroki. As Endeavor was so obsessed with trying to surpass that of All Might, he knew he couldn't do it himself, so his best plan? Basically create an offspring that could surpass the number 1 hero, that would basically be able to have the mix of both his fire quirk and his wife's, well, ice quirk as well. So yeah, and Endeavor had that of 3 kids before having that of Shoto, which was his masterpiece, as he likes to say. But to Shoto, his entire life was nothing but hell, and basically goes through his origin, even to the point where his mother threw that of boiling hot water on his face and everything, and even called it unbearable and all that. And the reason why he doesn't use his left sides, being his fire, is to basically denounce his father. But to Izuku, to him, he basically sees this as Shoto hurting himself just to hurt his father. If he basically keeps this up, he isn't really doing anything to help him, to prove his father wrong. All he's doing is basically hurting himself, and will soon, if he ever became a hero with still having this mindset, all he's doing is basically hurting others. In a way, he's been holding back for almost that of an entire month when they've been here, a month or 2 basically, and yet Aizawa has always told them to give it everything they got. Instead, Aizawa hasn't done anything to basically curb Shoto's, well, reason for holding himself back constantly. And if their homeroom teacher ain't going to do anything while one of his own classmates is suffering in front of him, Izuku having that of a serious look, with Shoto basically telling him what he said and was about to walk off before Izuku saying, "You had a hard life, Todoroki. I understand. And honestly, you have all right to hate your father. However, I've come this far because of my hard work and training. I have basically done everything I could all by myself. And I've always been told that I could never become a hero without a quirk. But you see here, within he channeling that of his wind nature chakra in that of his left hand, as it flows around his fist, saying, This is everything I've done to achieve my goal. I've come this far because of it, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So I'm telling you this now. If you plan on holding back against me in our fight, and if you don't use your fire side alongside your ice, I will tell you will lose. No ifs or buts about it. Just be prepared." But then, after saying his piece, Izuku also walks off. However, little did both Shoto and Izuku knew that they were being heard on by that of Bakugo, as Bakugo couldn't help but get annoyed at that speech as well, thinking to himself, still think he's quirkless. Damn him. Within soon, after that of taking a break and also Class 1A's girls basically being tricked and wearing cheerleader uniforms as always by that Mineta and Kaminari, they soon bring up that of the brackets. However, just like in canon as well, that of Ojiro and Shota basically drop out of the tournament entirely, as since they were being controlled by Shinso, they basically feel like they didn't earn their spots. So of course, Ibara, alongside that of Tetsu, still takes their spots, and the placements is always they were before in canon too. As the first match being between Izuku, Shinso, second match, Shoto and Sero, third match, Ibara, Kaminari, Ida and Mei, Mina and Aoyama, Tsuyu and Momo, Tetsu and Kirishima, and last but not least, Ochako and Bakugo. Still all the same as always. And with that of another break for those who didn't able to make it, have that of recreational activity games, the first match still goes on like it would have in canon. However, you would think that, Izuku would still be affected by that of Shinso's brainwashing. However, and he would still react. Normally, yes. However, this Izuku doesn't need to get up close and personal to use that of his quirk, or he doesn't need to basically not use his quirk against him, as he just used that of a vacuum barrage and basically knocked back that of, Shinso after all, not really needing to basically, do anything, as Shinso not really strong enough and still doesn't have his official training yet, because again, he relies so much on his quirk, gets knocked back out of the ring out of bounds. Within, Izuku couldn't help but sigh, before then saying that my friend basically gave me the information about you, and personally, you would think that going off the rail and you insulting me would basically help you. I won't lie, it would have if I didn't have the special means to basically knock you out of the ring before you can make me too emotional. But Shinso hearing this, he couldn't help but get annoyed, and he can't help but hate the fact that that everything that Izuku says is right. He never trained, he never worked. He basically always blamed that of UA's entrance exam for being unsuited for somebody of his quirk after all. But Izuku is right that he needs to work at it after all. But he still won't give up. He still wants to aim for being a hero no matter what. Unfortunately, in this timeline, given that Shinso never showed off his brainwashing quirk properly, unlike he would have in canon against that of Izuku, not a lot of people basically take notice of him, unfortunately, which is a damn shame. However, Aizawa, on the other hand, still took notice in that of Shinso. So his future as that of Aizawa's apprentice is still ensured. As for the next match, same as always, Shoto got angry because he encountered that of Endeavor, freezes Sero in place, basically making their match, null and void. Next match being that of Kaminari and Ibara. That's still the same too, with her basically wrapping up Kaminari in that of her vines and him frying his brain. Same thing also goes with that of, Ida and Mei too, with basically being used as a living advertisement before basically, forfeiting the match by ringing out. Next up being that of Mina and Aoyama's fight, still the same. Embarrassing Aoyama and then uppercutting him from Mina. Next up, now here's the diversions of this. It's kind of still the same. I can still see this being the same outcome with Momo losing. However, I could see it being a little bit more different. Tsuyu would basically try to knock, Momo out of the ring by basically wrapping up her legs and throwing her out. However, it would be easier said than done, given that Momo would still find ways to fight against Tsuyu, possibly even try creating that of flashbangs like she would with Aizawa during the, final exam. However, even with that, has way much more agility and a lot more acrobatic than that of, well, Momo. Of course, not just due to her quirk, but also due to Tsuyu always constantly working out too. So just a well-placed, full-on drop kick from that of Tsuyu, and boom, Momo's out of the arena and Tsuyu moves on to the next match. As for this, Momo would still be somewhat depressed because she didn't get to show off on what she's truly capable of, but she would at least be able to last a lot longer than she did with that of Tokiyami, of course. So, hey, silver lining. Her confidence isn't too shot, but it's still pretty shot. No need to basically go over that of Tetsu and Kirishima's match, which is basically same old, knockout fist fight, basically draw. And same thing also goes for Bakugo and Ochako's match. Same as always. However, the difference is that, well, Ochako is friends with Izuku, of course. That hasn't changed. But she's not as basically as, well, drawn to that of Izuku as canon. Mainly because Izuku didn't save Ochako during that of the entrance exam. But she is giving it her all mainly for that of her parents, though. And to prove that she can basically stand on top as a pro. Even with that determination, it's still not enough against Bakugo and his stupidly overpowered quirk, which still gives Bakugo that of the W, which soon after leads that of the next match between Izuku and Shoto. However, just before their match, the same thing goes with Kirishima and Tetsu. Arm wrestle, Kirishima wins, moves on to the next round against Bakugo. Now it's time for the match between Izuku and Shoto. However, Izuku does run into Endeavor, just like in Canon 2, with Endeavor basically telling Izuku to give it everything he's got to force Shoto to use his flames. Especially since telling Izuku that he's going to be the number one hero to surpass All Might after all. With then, Izuku still gives out the same speech that there's no way that Shoto's going to surpass All Might. Not because Izuku is saying it's just the super fan, but as long as he keeps on seeing Shoto as himself, seeing himself into Shoto, he'll never be able to achieve that goal. Not only that, Endeavor had multiple chances to be the number one hero to surpass All Might, but he basically lost those chances after all these years. Within, Endeavor was completely and utterly shocked by this. With Izuku walking off, within, the match is about to begin. However, as soon as the match begins, Izuku already has that of multiple hand signs. However, it almost looks like nothing happened before he dodges out of the way, and the match with multiple ice barrages coming straight for that of Izuku after all. But even so, the ice keeps on getting faster and faster and more, and keeps heading straight for that of Izuku. With then, soon seeing that of Izuku reaching his limit, Shoto basically saying, "You've done your best to hold out while you can, Midoriya." Since I don't know what you did with your first hands did the first time, but whatever it was your only chance, your only shot you had. And then looking back at his father, before then realizing that Endeavor is angry, within soon sending out of another blast of ice. Before then, a burst of fire basically consumes that of the arena. With then Shoto wondering what's going on. Before then facing against Endeavor, with wondering why would he face against his own old bastard of a father? Before Endeavor doesn't say anything before sending that of a blast of fire again and again. And Shoto tried using ice walls and wondering what the hell is he doing, and wondering why isn't any of the pros or even the faculty doing anything. Within, as words that shock him to his core, as Endeavor basically calls Shoto nothing but another failure, an immature and bratty child that holds himself back if he doesn't use his flames. With Shoto basically convincing himself he doesn't need his bastard of a father's fire, that he'll be a hero all by himself with his own self-work, with his mother's quirk instead. before then hearing a voice that he hasn't heard in a long time, before saying, so that's how you see it. You only see it as you see it as my quirk instead of your own. Within, wondering as that voice chills him to the bone, as it being his mother. Within, Shoto wondering what's going on, why is she even here, as she as a white-haired woman with pale gray eyes looking straight at Shoto, with Shoto basically saying, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in the hospital. That mental home that bastard sends you to. Why are you here? As the woman known as Rei Todoroki, Shoto's mother, basically tells him that all he's doing is hurting himself, not giving it his all, not doing the right thing. He says, what kind of hero do you want to be? What kind of hero are you truly aiming for, Shoto? Within, Shoto wondering those words as he can't remember. He doesn't know what kind of hero he wants to be. Before several memories begin to flash in his head, or rather, begin to flash around him, as those memories of being around his mother, spending time with her, even remembering watching TV with her and seeing that of All Might, telling about that of quirks, that they may be genetic, but they're their own person when they have them, that they can be a hero. Remember the words of his mother, basically telling him that he is not a prisoner of his legacy, that he can be a hero in his own way. Within, soon, without warning, flames begin to erupt around that of Shoto. However, they begin to erupt outside as well, because all of this took place in Shoto's mind, as Izuku basically put Shoto in a genjutsu. First time using it, and he used it to basically help Shoto get over his mental issues. You know, now that I think about it, the ninja villages would basically make a killing if they used genjutsu to help people get over their issues. But hey, easier said than done. Within, soon, Izuku basically stepping back, before then cloaking himself in his chakra armor, with soon Shoto realizing what's happening as he's using his flames, before then realizing, Midoriya, did you? But then saying, I'm guessing you finally faced against your inner demons, didn't you? Sorry about that, Todoroki. But, to me, you were suffering, and I couldn't just sit back and do nothing and see a person suffer right in front of me, as that genjutsu was to help Shoto no longer suppress his fire. Within, saying, you really are something else, Midoriya. You do know you were helping your enemy. Within, Izuku couldn't help but smile, saying, doesn't matter to me. Like I said, I never cared for aiming for the top. I'm only a hero to help those in need, even those who I see as my enemies as well, that truly need it. Within, hearing all that, Shoto couldn't help but smirk and smile, saying, don't blame me for what happens next. Within, soon, about to having his hands together, saying, wouldn't dream of it. As then soon, Shoto sends that of a glacier wave of ice towards Izuku. Before then, Izuku heads straight for the ice and runs up it. Before then, jumping up into the air before getting consumed by it. As while he's up into the air, he has that of multiple hand signs, planning on using that of his new wind-style jutsu. Within, Shoto basically burning away the ice at pretty fast, after all, at high temperatures. Before then, sending a burst of his flames high up towards that of Izuku. Within, Izuku couldn't help but scream out, wind-style vortex jutsu! As raising up his hands high up into the air, before then, a tornado of wind heads straight for that of Shoto, as both the flames and the wind, alongside that of the highly heated up ice as well, creates that of a well-timed and well-focused explosion, which consumes the entirety of the arena. With then soon, everybody wondering what's happened. Before then, Shoto's the only one that's left in the arena. However, he's on his back and basically looking at his entire left side of his UA gym uniform basically burnt, as he can feel his entire body sore and almost with that of dozens of little cuts around him too. But even so, he's still able to breathe in and out. However, what about that of Izuku though? Surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, he still ended up in a ring out, with leading that to Shoto being the winner, as his entire uniform is basically burnt and also scarred up too. However, Izuku, on the other hand, is not unconscious though, even while basically burnt, as he couldn't help but smile, thinking, well, there goes my run. But even so, as he couldn't help but smile with that of a cheerful grin, saying, I did my good deed for the day. I'm proud of it. With soon both Shoto and Izuku being sent off to the infirmary to be patched up. Even though Shoto wins, he still needs to make sure that he's capable enough to move on forward. Which, before that of the robots could fully send that of Shoto to the infirmary, just like before, Endeavor basically stops him in the robots and basically gives him the same speech to glad that he's no longer basically, childish or on his rebellious stage anymore, and even showing him the path to the mighty to becoming the next #1 hero, even training him how to use his fire. However, Shoto, on the other hand, says the same things as always, that he hasn't changed a damn thing, that he still despises him. It's just for that very moment that he was able to overcome all the mental blocks that was put on him because of his father's actions to their family. For that split moment, Endeavor didn't matter, and he didn't even care about him at all. However, unknown to Shoto, it caused that of Endeavor to actually shed one single tear, even though it evaporated through that of his fiery mask. While in the infirmary, the other matches basically go on just like they would in canon as well. Same old, same old. Ibara loses to Ida. Surprisingly, the match between Tsuyu and Mina was done somewhat pretty well. It was more of a match of agility and who could basically land a hit or basically the knockout blow first. In thinking about it, first, Mina would possibly win due to she has better long range due to her acid after all. However, this is before Mina developed that of ways to make that of her long range acid abilities even better. As all she does is basically send globs of acid at her foes, to be honest, before she found different ways to use it better. Tsuyu, on the other hand, has better mobility and agility, and yeah, her only long range weapon being that of her tongue, but even so, simplicity is always sometimes the best option, so Tsuyu would kind of win this match. And same old, Kirishima loses to Bakugo due to him not being able to keep his hardening up longer, after all. So yeah. As for the next match, Shoto basically is all clear to go to the next match. However, he did have an interesting conversation with that of Izuku, especially bringing up the fact about that of his genjutsu style. Within, Izuku basically tells him the truth, as he's the only one in that of Class 1A that knows the truth, that Izuku is 100% and fully quirkless. That all he's doing is due to that of Chakra, a natural living energy that's inside of Izuku's body. It's the reason on why he's able to move at that of pretty fast speeds. He has better control over his balance and body, and able to use that of jutsu, such as that of his Shadow Clone Jutsu, and also his Elemental Jutsus as well. Hearing all this, Shoto really thinks that Izuku is trying his best to hide it. However, he knows that Midoriya isn't the kind of person to basically lie about things like this. Not only that, he even literally helped him through that of his most scarring moments, and basically realized the fact that he was suppressing so many good moments of his life and only focusing on the bad. So for that, Shoto will take Izuku's words for that of truth, at least for now. But even so, he still has a match to win, and that being against Ida, and that's still the same too. Even though he basically has gotten over his trauma with using that of his fire, But he still is more proficient with that of his ice, and still able to encase Ida in ice too. Next match, well, yeah, Bakugo still beats that of Sue. Even though Sue is basically more agile and possibly has more agility is more agile than Bakugo, let's not bring up the fact that Bakugo has better battle sense than that of Suyu though. So of course, Bakugo just needs to wait for the perfect opportunity and moment to basically hit Suyu, and he did not hold anything back with a barrage of explosions, knocking her out of the arena, while also bruised up a little bit. But even so, she was still able to show what she was truly capable of, so no hard feelings there. However, that also led to that of Ida finding out about his brother though, which soon led to him leaving that of the UA Sports Festival. And the last match is between that of Shoto and Bakugo, just like in canon too. However, just like before with that of their conversation before the match began, asking if he knows Izuku longest, and also that he's always willing to help those in need. Within Bakugo wondering why, especially using his flames, just like out of the blue after basically just standing there for just a few minutes after all. As it took to Shoto, it took like hours for him to go through that of his memories. But for that of everybody else in the arena, it took like that of 3 minutes. And just him using his flames just out there without warning. Within, Shoto wanted to tell Bakugo, however, he could see that there's still some kind of, grudge against the two. So he basically saying that Midoriya just helped him. Simple as that. And that's all. And that he plans on making sure that kindness of his does not go to waste. Which does infuriate Bakugo even more. But even so, he proves that he was going to beat Shoto and going to win the sports festival, no matter what. Which soon, our match begins, same as always. Shoto sending that of a huge blast of ice towards Bakugo. However, Bakugo basically blasted himself out of it and heads straight for that of Shoto, even doing the same that of flipping him over and trying to get him a ring out, but Shoto using ice to basically keep himself from basically getting out of a ring out. However, Shoto doesn't just stop there. Even though he still doesn't feel like he's completely gotten over everything just yet, he still wants to at least try. Within him sending that of a burst of fire towards that of Bakugo. However, as soon as he does, he soon stops it, basically grabbing his hand as it's shaking. Within soon realizing that he's still not ready yet. As much as he wants to, he still can't. However, seeing this, Bakugo decides to stop holding back and hits him with that of his special move being his howitzer impact. Same old. However, even so, Shoto was about to send that of a blast of fire, and especially that from words of encouragement from that of Izuku as well. Shoto still isn't ready yet, as he still has one more thing left to basically fully get over that of his issues, of course. So, of course, Bakugo's attack hits, it lands, and Shoto is knocked out from the massive explosion. However, Bakugo did not like that. The fact that Shoto didn't give it his all against him, but he did against that of Izuku, which makes it feel like this was basically a pity victory, even to the point that he was about to blast Shoto basically in the face to get back up and fight against him so he can get a real victory. But, of course, Midnight basically stopped it before it could get out of hand. So yeah, still the same as always. Bakugo won the sports festival. Shoto got second place. However, instead of Tokiyami being in that of third place alongside Ida, who isn't there because, again, his brother, Suyu actually gets third place. So she actually got more time to shine because of this. With All Might giving medals to the three of them, even Bakugo still kind of pissed at the fact that he didn't feel like he earned this victory, but All Might basically still gave him the medal, basically putting it in his mouth like the rabbit dog he is. But even so, the sports festival still stays somewhat the same, but ends in that of different ways. And next up would be that of the hero killer, with even taking on that of Stain. However, this wouldn't be this. However, unlike that of season 1 and 2, this arc, on the other hand, wouldn't play out that of the same as canon, though. Mainly because the only reason that, well, Izuku was even in Hosu was because of his train being derailed by that of a Nomu. So, and because he was interning with that of Gran Torino, but Izuku's not All Might's chosen, who he caved to out of One For All to, and he's not struggling with One For All too, so yeah, Izuku wouldn't be in the Hosu incident. Instead, the person that Izuku would intern with would be a hero who understands that of ninjas better, since understanding his chakra better would be understanding ninjas, and that being, well, Edgeshot, of course. Not only that, Izuku also got more offers than he would have in canon, too. Hell, he actually got that of the third biggest offers in that of the sports festival, under that of Tsuyu and Tokiyami, actually. Number 1 was still Shoto, and number 2 was still Bakugo. So, yeah. And even that of their hero names from that of Midnight, too. Everyone's hero name is still the same, even Bakugo still pending to that of the whole dumbass hero name that is the explosion murder guide Dynamite, after all. I'm just gonna stick with stupid ass Dynamite. However, Izuku's name wouldn't be Deku after all. Mainly because, again, he's not that close with that of Uraraka, and he doesn't really care for the name Deku that much. Sure, he only liked it because Ochako basically changed the meaning for it for him. However, even so, it's not that perfect. So, for Izuku, he chose that of another name, that being the Chakra hero, Ninshu. It's only fitting after all. So yeah, any rate, after that of several days of preparing for their internships, Izuku would basically intern with Edgeshot, who also lives in that of Tokyo, of course. As for Edshot's training Izuku, he would basically give him the fundamentals on what it means to be a hero, basically patrolling, looking after heroes, the paperwork, all that. However, to help that of Izuku improve in that of his quirk, and that of his chakra control and many other things, he would also he would basically give him multiple surprise attacks alongside multiple attacks from his sidekicks as well. Basically forcing Izuku to be more on his toes and on his knees after all. As of course it taxes his chakra tanks after all, which basically leaves him somewhat empty after a few hours or so, until after he gets like a good night's sleep or so. But even then, it still basically helps him improve quite a bit. And it helps him more with that of his reflexes, sensitivity skills, and even that of even spotting that of those with that of bloodlust, surprisingly. As Edgeshot isn't that of the number 5 hero for nothing. However, even though while Izuku's improving, this still doesn't leave the fact that the League of Villains still attacks Hosu. The hero killer is still at large. He ends up killing Ida because Izuku wasn't there. So in the fact that Shoto, however, Endeavor was still there. They were still able to take care of the Nomu. However, Stain, on the other hand, is still at large though. And there's still more, and he's still out there killing that of pro heroes, killing the fakers as he deems. So yeah, because of Izuku wasn't in Hosu, and that he didn't inform that of Shoto as well, because he didn't think that Shoto would be in Hosu with that of Endeavor. So of course, it would have been too late, to be honest. So yeah, Ida's dead in this timeline because of this. Which soon leads to that the pro that he was interning with, being that of Manuel and his sidekicks, basically having his agency shut down, his hero license suspended, and basically on temporary leave for the time being. Not to mention that UA is also being called into question, wondering on why Ida would basically go after that of the hero killer, or better yet, why wouldn't the teachers do anything to stop Ida to going after the hero killer? Even that of the interview with that of his brother, Tensei, who was crippled by that of Stain after all, figured this out. and realized that he must have went after Stain for vengeance against him, which basically forces the Ida family to be even more broken. Heck, even Izuku and everybody in Class 1A, except that of Bakugo, basically was kind of heartbroken by this as well. Any of them didn't even expect that Ida would even die, to be honest, as he's always been a stickler for the rules and always been, well, always abide by that of the law after all. And yet he decides to break it to go and to try and take down Stain himself. And he's just a hero in training. Basically proves even more that they didn't truly understand or know Ida. Hell, even Izuku feels even more responsible for this, as he knew that Ida was hurting. He knew he was suffering, and he should have tried better, and yet he didn't. Which, again, which after the sports festival basically puts UA under more scrutiny after all. However, on the other hand, you would think that since the Nomu and Stain were basically at that of Hosu, that they're working together. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Since Stain was basically able to escape Hosu, you want to know what his next plan was? Basically try to kill Shigaraki. He literally even says it when the Nomus basically were attacking, that he planned on killing Shigaraki next. So, of course, yeah, the Stain and the League literally fought against one another. And Shigaraki didn't go on here unscathed, of course. I mean, it took Kurogiri didn't have was paralyzed by that of Stain. And they still didn't understand what his quirk was. It was only until All For One had to step in to prevent Shigaraki from dying by sending that of incomplete Nomu to stop them. However, the damage was already done. Shigaraki was way too badly damaged, with multiple cuts and wounds, even a severed hand. Puts the LOV out of commission for the time being, and leaving that as Stain the true threat for the time being. So yeah, all that was left was that of final exams, and even with that of the intense situation that was going on, the seat for that of Ida in Class 1A was taken by that of Shinso, of course. As exams were basically still the same. All still the same, still partners and everything else like that. However, only one difference with that of Izuku and Bakugo's though. Izuku has Shadow Clone Jutsu. All they need is to basically get one person under that gate and they pass. Simple as that. Even when Izuku was basically telling Bakugo this, that they needed to run from All Might, Bakugo was still determined to basically try and get through and defeat All Might, to prove that he can win, to prove his ideas that a hero always wins, no matter what. Which, again, admirable, but is still one-sided and stupid as well. So, of course, Izuku worked smarter, not harder, used the Shadow Clone to basically get to that of the exit and caused them to pass. However, it didn't do any favors with that of Bakugo. Hell, even lunging at that of Izuku, taking away that of his perfect victory. But again, what perfect victory? All Izuku did was basically saved him from a humbling experience. But of course, there's no thank you for that of doing the right thing and the smart thing. Until that of All Might had to break the two of them up. And let's just say the relationship between Izuku and Bakugo just gets even worse in this timeline. However, given that this is the time where that of final exams would end and everything else, same old, they prepare for that of the summer camp and even that of preparing for the Island trip after all. However, with Shigaraki still pretty damaged and badly injured, he doesn't go outside of to the mall and meet with Izuku, where the two talk about their ideas and why people are so ignorant and so damn smiling when All Might's around. So that doesn't happen either. However, there is that of a full-on mission against that of the hero killer. Like top 10 pros all across Japan decides to put down the hero killer. Hell, a few of the pros, such as that of Best Genius, Edge Shots, and even that of Endeavor, basically asked if he's working with a league, to the point that where he tells them that he's not. So to be honest, whatever the plans that the league had to basically use that of Stain as their spokesperson to gain that of more members, especially that of good members like that of Toga, Dabi, and Spinner, and Twice and Compress, well, not as much. Well, at least not Dabi and Spinner and Toga, but I can still see that of Compress and Twice still joining the league though, alongside Muscular too. Maybe even that of Moonfish, but I don't see Magna joining the league though too, so. But who could say, maybe she would join the league. But with all these changes, this world is on that of a wild, crazy coaster to who knows where it leads to, especially given that since One For All is in that of, well, Mirio's hands. Sure, he's a lot more powerful, but he's also doomed to a shorter lifespan though. So even with the incident that goes on at Island, Izuku would possibly be there too, mainly possibly to that of sponsors that liked him from the sports festival, or he would join along with that of the others from class 1A2 that also showed up but are mainly in the background. I feel like the incident at Island would still go the same, just with Mirio there instead, and possibly even quicker though. Who could say? However, the summer camp, on the other hand, that's a whole other story. And who knows on how that would go. Would it go better or would it go worse? Who could say? And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Let's read them. And yeah, this is my first official one-shot. I honestly just wanted to do something special because, again, Naruto means a lot, and this is the month. Not only that was my birthday month, but it's also the month where Naruto first aired to the West, like I said before. And Naruto means everything to me in my heart. I grew up on Naruto, and it also gave me one of my best rivalries with my older brother, after all. So yeah, I appreciate it a lot. I'll probably be doing more and more one-shots like this in the future for the channel. And like I said, I have an important update coming out in the next couple of weeks or so as well for the channel too. So again, keep an eye out for that. Any rate, if you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, get you to date my videos up on the channel. If YouTube's not, well, screwing people over again, please check out my Discord, gaming channel, side channel, other channel, Patreon, and Cash App. All linked in the description below. So, with all that said, this is Leon Mookie, signing out. Later, guys, and hope you all take care. Shiro Kitsune, my lovely lady, you know what to do.
Hi everyone, this is White Fox. If you liked Leon's video, click the video on the left to see the most recent one. And if you want to see more of this, click the subscribe button and notification bell and check out his playlists. If you still haven't subscribed, do so in the center. With that said, I hope to see you again on my love's channel. Bye!